So thanks for joining us for another webinar organized by Princeton for everyone worldwide. We're very happy to talk to Eduard Talamas today from IESE Business School. Hi, Eduard.
Hello, Markus.
We will talk about artificial intelligence agents today. And then first we have to know what are these agents, what are they doing with us down the road. So the key questions we want to address today is how are AI agents different from human population, from humans, and will they complement humans or will they substitute humans? And AI agents act autonomously. How should we regulate them, and what is the key trade-off? And Eduardo will explain to us how to answer these questions. Before we pass on the mic to Eduard, we will actually talk a little bit about AI as predictors. Can predict better, that's predictive AI. There can be communicators or knowledge managers that can summarize and distill information, take reports, summarize them, and also write reports, convey also emotional input. There can be good planners, advisors, for example, robo-advisor for financial decision makers. They can execute certain actions like algo trading, and can be more generally decision makers, reduce people's choice set, and they can only choose them from a reduced choice set. And there can also be some risk or resilience managers. Now, in terms of what type of AI agents we might have, there are some behavioral agents, behavioral not in the sense of psychological, but they have a behavioral rule. So they are, for example, simple reflex agents where they take a current sensory input and that determines then the action. The exogenous function will determine then the action. There can be some model-based reflex agents where they have an internal representation of the world, like a model, and a function of this representation determines then the action. But the action is specifically exogenously specified what they are taking. Now in economics, we typically, instead of having agent-based economics, we have utility or goal-based agents, and that also can be happening in these settings. So they use algorithms to maximize some goal or some utility functions across states of the world. And there might be even learning agents where they learn over time and the behavior changes over time as they learn. More generally, there can be hierarchical agents. They can have very complex tasks which you split and break down into subtasks, and then the agent actually makes decisions based on that. Or you can analyze a multi-agent system, like an economy, where different AI agents interact within a shared environment, but possibly with different objectives, with different utility functions. And that's very close to what we do in our general equilibrium model setting or game theoretic settings. So everything which we do in economics, you can also translate then also how to model agents in the real world. Now, of course, what AI does, it changes the span of control, what an individual can do, or an agent control other agents. So typically, the increased use of IT increases the span of control over other agents. That's the traditional way of we model knowledge. Now it's also, you have a span of control over AI agents, or the AI agent has control over the humans. And this, of course, affects the number of hierarchies we will have and how the system looks like, the hierarchical system looks like within the firm and also across firms within an industry. And that, of course, impacts the theory of the firms, where the boundaries of the firms, how does the input-output tables look like, and so forth. And, of course, it will also lead to the development of platforms with network externalities, which allow for some rent extraction. So the whole economic structure will develop also in the AI space as well. So with this quick overview, I would like to pass on the mic to Eduard, and he will tell us more about AI agents as he sees it within a particular model. And I think he will refer to his recent paper on this topic. Thanks again for doing it, and I hope we can make the switch to your slides now.
Sure. Thank you so much, Markus, for having me. I'm super excited to be talking about this joint work with Enrique Ide. Enrique is a brilliant economist here at IESE. I'm super happy to be working with him on this, and super happy to be sharing this work with you, and looking forward to your comments and questions, which are always great. So I just came back from the Bay Area, and I had the pleasure to go to these annual meetings, as I try to do every year. And as always, as every year, there's all sorts of interesting debates. But I picked up on something quite remarkable, which was there's agreement on one important thing, which is AI agents seem to be coming this year. And I thought that I would give you some anecdotal evidence that might be useful for perhaps for those who weren't there. So this is the first kind of thing that struck me. Walking around San Francisco, you see these billboards sort of suggesting that there's companies out there that are ready to develop these AI agents, which seem to be sort of perfect substitutes for some humans. Now, what I think is the key novelty of AI agents is autonomy, and this this theme will go through the talk. So I thought I would start with some quotes to give you a sense of what we mean by autonomy, or at least what the developers mean by autonomy, right? So I'll give you 3 quotes. The first one is from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and he recently said the following: agents are the thing everyone is talking about, I think, for good reason. You know, this idea that you can give an AI system a pretty complicated task, like a kind of task you would give to a very smart human, that takes a while to go off and do, and use a bunch of tools and create something of value. That's the kind of thing I would expect next year, and that's like a huge deal. So that's Sam Altman. We have CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, saying similar things. I am not talking about AI as merely a tool to analyze data. I'm talking about using AI to perform, direct, and improve upon nearly everything experts do. It does not just passively answer questions. Instead, it can be given tasks that take hours, days, or weeks to complete, and then goes off and does those tasks autonomously, in the way a smart employee would, asking for clarification as necessary. Finally, I went to this panel, AI and the Future of Work, which is available online, and actually recommend to everyone because it was a great panel. And something that Gillian Hadfield said really struck with me, and I wanted to share it with you. I thought that would be useful. She said the following: think about what that means. What are AI agents doing? They are engaging in transactions, entering into contracts, hiring people, designing products, setting prices for products, advertising, doing all those things. So I think it's really important for us to be shifting our thinking a little bit. And economists need to be doing this work. Not just thinking about it as a technology or a tool, but rather as a novel economic agent. So you have to start asking the question, how will our markets, our organizations, our economies composed of significant number of AI agents perform? And finally, the last quote I'll give you is, this really resonated and reminded me of something Jason Harline told me. Recently, I was presenting this at Northwestern. I really loved chatting with him. And at some point, he said something which I thought it was very wise, and I wanted to share as well, which is algorithms are complicated, and so are humans. The economics profession has developed methods for understanding outcomes of systems of humans using simple models of human behavior. And his insight was, the analysis of analogous models of algorithms has the potential to say new things about algorithms, right? So I think it's clear across the board, that there's a very good role for economists here, and this is actually going to be one of the first general points I want to make, which is just echo Gillian and Jason saying economists have thought a lot about human interactions, and I think as a result we're well positioned to understand and shape the impact of AI agents that seem to be coming. The second main point I want to make, general point, is a population of AI, and this refers to something you said, Markus, at the beginning. What is different? So I'll try to explain how a population of AI agents is fundamentally different from a human population. So we can use our tools, and they are going to be super useful, but we need new thinking about those. And finally, the third point I want to make is that the economic impact of introducing AI agents crucially depends on their autonomy, and I'll try to explain what I mean by that. Okay, so let me get concrete, and as you mentioned, Markus, I will go to a model. So I think that makes a lot. That is useful to advance the discussion. Getting concrete and modeling things forces you to really understand and make the choices, the modeling choices, and it makes you think much harder. So I hope we can do that together today, and I'll try to go a little bit into the detail, but I think that's going to be useful to push the discussion forward. And this is going to be based on this paper I've been working on with Enrique for the last 2 years. We've been having the time of our lives, working very hard on it, but we really learned a lot, and we wanted to share it with you. So what are the goals of this paper? It's to develop a framework that contributes to 3 things, essentially. One, organize the discussion. There seems to be a lot of people talking about AI and their effects. There's a lot of discussion, but really we feel there's still a lot of work to do in terms of finding the right frameworks to organize the discussion, so we want to contribute towards that. In particular, how is AI different from human intelligence? That's a key question, of course. Who wins and who loses from the introduction of AI agents? So you introduce AI, who is complemented, who is substituted? That's a key question, of course, everyone is asking. Now, there's empirical analysis being done already. That's super useful, and of course, a lot more will be done, and we're looking forward to that. And we hope we can guide that analysis a little bit. So in particular, there seems, I'll talk about this later, there seems to be contradictory evidence. We want to understand how can we rationalize that? What data do we need to collect? Perhaps hopefully the theory can tell us something about that. And finally, guide policy. There's also, of course, a lot of interest in how should we regulate, how should we regulate, what are the key trade-offs? So we want to talk about that. Okay, so let's get into the actual paper. So what are the pillars of our approach? The first observation is that AI directly affects knowledge work, and that is one of the key things about AI. How is AI different from other automation technologies? Well, it seems to affect the knowledge economy, broadly understood, more than previous automation technologies. And what we realized with Enrique is that there's a very nice literature about this kind of work, the knowledge work, right? There's this beautiful annual review of economics chapter by Luis Garicano and Esteban Rossi-Hansberg that if those who are interested should read, because it puts it beautifully. And what are the main insights here? Well, the key bottleneck in the knowledge economy is knowledge. That's sort of almost a tautology, but let me explain what they mean by that, or try to explain what they mean by that. The realization is that the use of a human knowledge is constrained by his or her time, right? So if you think about yourself, Markus, you have all this amazing knowledge. How can society use that knowledge? Well, we need your time, but you have so much time, right? So that's why your time is so valuable, and of course why I'm super grateful to be here with you and you.
But is the bottleneck developing knowledge or conveying knowledge? No, I might be, have a lot of time developing models, but it's hard for me to convey it to others through sound.
Well, I guess both. No, I guess both. The point is, look, you have this knowledge, and it would be, in principle, we could use that knowledge to do many things, but in practice, you have so much time.
Can I ask you, for the first point, does your model also include robots, or does not include in robots? Because robots also have not only knowledge work, but also muscle work.
We're not thinking about robots too much. There's also discussion about, AI agents are coming, robots may not be far behind. So there might be ways of thinking about, AI agents combined with also robots. We're not going to be thinking about robots so much, essentially because we'll have, you'll see in a minute, but the model will have computing power, so it's really, we're really thinking about compute more than actual machines, yeah. So let me finish this thought about the insights from the knowledge hierarchies literature, which is this realization that the key bottleneck is knowledge, and that's because knowledge is in humans' heads, and humans have limited amount of time, leads to the conclusion or the realization that a key role of organizations is to make the best possible use of the available knowledge in society, right? Like if you think about you, Markus, you have all sorts of organizations around you that shield you from all sorts of nonsense so that you can actually focus on what's really valuable, right? Like doing this amazing Markus Academy. You can do this because there's someone else doing a lot of stuff that allows you to actually focus on the good stuff, right? So that's one of the roles that organizations play in the knowledge economy, and potentially a very big role. So all these, I'm trying to explain what I understand about this, but you should go and read the chapter. It's very wonderfully explained there.
So when I think about knowledge, I also think about Hayek and the informational content in prices. Do you include price knowledge as well? That people might not interact, but they might only interact through the marketplace, and the price evolves, and that also reveals information and creates knowledge.
Yeah, I guess these are
Garicano or Rossi-Hansberg thing does not go to this Hayekian way of transferring information or knowledge.
It comes from the same tradition of thinking. I should think more about this comment. I really don't know how to respond to that, but yeah, it comes from the same line of thinking, and it's definitely related. I just don't have anything smart to say right now about that. Okay, so this is the literature, okay? And we know this literature. Most of us study this in graduate school. What is our main insight? Our main insight is that AI is a big deal because it allows knowledge to be used at scale, right? Think about the difference. Imagine that we could put all your knowledge, Markus, in an AI system. Now we could be using your knowledge, and we could be leveraging across all units of compute, and that is a big increase in the scale at which we can use your knowledge. That would be an amazing world, right? So a little, in a sense, that's the potential of AI, to allow, if we are able to put certain knowledge in AI systems, those systems can actually be used across all units of compute. That should make a big difference. In particular, should lead to a huge reorganization of society, because if a key role of organizations comes from the time constraint, and now we release this time constraint massively, well, these organizations should look different, right? And with this reorganization, once we understand this reorganization, we can understand effects on productivity, effects on inequality, and so forth, and that's what we're trying to do.
So it is really the ability to copy the knowledge to another brain, or if I can just copy my brain to somebody else's brain.
Exactly. So
your brain to somebody else's brain.
Yeah, this is
so it's the communication, essentially.
Yeah, sorry to cut you. Yeah.
So it's a communication from brain to brain. If we didn't have any bottleneck there, it would be the same as the AI technology.
Yeah, let me tell you how I think about it, which is related, which is we have organic brains, us humans, and we can only access our brain with our own time. So it would be a very different world if I could say, you know what, Markus, I like your brain more than my brain. So what we're going to do is I'll give you my time. So we'll use your brain for both your time and my time. That's not something we can do with humans, but that's exactly what we can do with AI, right? Because you have these models out there, and if we all like one foundation model better, we can all say, you know what, we'll use all my computing power, your computing power. We are all using the same brain, and that's a fundamental difference.
Fair enough.
Good.
But it also means there's a lot of systemic risk if we all do the same thing and like the same thing and think the same way.
I'm sure, and that's where your
research of humans.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where your research will come handy. Okay, so what's our main message? The main message of the paper is that the autonomy of AI agents will be critical for who wins and who loses. We have other results and so forth, but today I really want to focus on this key question. And in particular, the main sort of takeaway will be that autonomous AI, which can act as a coworker, benefits the most knowledgeable, but non-autonomous AI will mostly benefit the least knowledgeable. So there is really, and from here we'll see a trade-off in terms of regulation of autonomy. Okay, so this is the outline. As I said, I really want to get a little bit into the details because I think that's useful. So the next couple of slides, I'll be presenting a model. I'll try to do it as clearly as I can, but we will get into a little bit of the details. Then the second part is where the interesting action happens, where I'll be talking about AI. How do we introduce AI agents into this framework? And then I'll talk about the economic impact and the role of autonomy. Okay, is that fair, Markus?
Yes.
Good. So let's go. You ready? Yeah?
Yes.
Let's go. So this section is, we're not doing anything new. I'll just tell you what we borrow from the literature. Okay, so we made an effort to not change anything. These are beautiful models, and now my job in the next 5 minutes or so is just to explain these beautiful models. So there's a unit mass of humans. Each human is endowed with 1 unit of time, and some knowledge will denote Z, which distributed according to some distribution over 0, 1. So you should imagine the humans living in the 0, 1 line, according to some distribution. You can think the uniform if you want, but we'll have a general distribution. Now, there's going to be competitive firms. This is going to be a perfectly competitive market. The firms, the role is just going to be to organize production. They're not going to make any profits. What can they do? What's the production function in this economy? Well, if you want to produce, you have to hire workers. What will the workers be able to do? Well, if you hire a worker, the worker will use her time and knowledge to pursue a project. Okay? So we're thinking about, there's a pool of projects out there, all look exactly identical. You hire a worker, you say, okay, you can go pursue that project. Let's see whether you can actually finish that project. What does that depend on? Well, there's going to be a problem coming up when you're pursuing a project. And the problem will have some difficulty, which is going to be uniformly distributed between 0 and 1. Okay? And now the worker with knowledge Z will be able to solve the problem if her knowledge is higher than the difficulty of the problem she draws, right? If that's the case, she produces 1 unit of output. Otherwise, she cannot produce. So she pursues the project, she finds a problem, or the problem is more difficult than I can solve, so she cannot produce. Now, the twist that makes the whole thing interesting is that the firms can also add hierarchy. So the firms can say, you know what, we'll hire some workers to pursue a bunch of projects, and then we'll have a manager or solver who comes in to help when a worker finds a difficult problem that she doesn't know how to solve. Okay?
Can I ask a quick question about the distribution G?
Yeah.
You assume X is uniformly distributed. Is it important that Z or Z is not uniformly distributed, or why did you assume?
So yeah, the uniform here it's without loss, because I have two. What matters is the relation between these two distributions. As soon as I have one that's general, the other one I can just assume it's uniform. It's without loss. But what that allows us, is to think of Z as the fraction of problems you can solve.
Yes.
Right? So your knowledge is the fraction of problems you can solve on your own. Now the key thing is you could think of autonomy just on your own, but there's going to be firms, so there's going to be matching between humans. Right? You're a worker, you might be assigned or you might go into a firm with a particular manager, and that manager or solver can help you solve certain stuff.
I cannot invest in education to improve my G distribution. Good. And more likely to be a high Z type.
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, some papers in the literature do that, and actually the first paper that started the whole party, Luis's Garicano job market paper, had endogenous knowledge acquisition, and you can do that. We haven't done this in this paper, so we're thinking of it's 2025. We have the distribution of knowledge we have. AI agents come in. What's going to happen? But there's a paper to be written about, okay, how do we humans respond to that? We haven't done that in this paper.
But of course, what's important here is it's a one-dimensional thing.
Yeah.
The Z.
I don't want to confuse anyone, but we have a second paper where we do multidimensional, but that's for the next time you invite me. Okay, so let me finish how the model works. Before that, let me just remind you of the main idea, which is firms can choose to introduce a hierarchy, become hierarchical. And what's the idea is that the hierarchy will shield solvers from routine work, allowing them to specialize in the exceptional problems, right? Just like, in a sense, what happens with you, Markus, is that you don't get the routinary stuff, you get the hard stuff that only you know how to solve, right? That's in the literature called management by exception. And there's this beautiful quote saying, this is actually, of course, very relevant in many cases. That's a quote from Alfred Sloan way back saying, we do not do much routine work with details. They never get up to us. I work fairly hard, but on exception. So this model is capturing this idea. Mm-hmm. Let me finish the actual description of the model. So the production workers, as I said, can ask a solver for help when they get stuck. Now, what's going to be the cost of this help? Well, it's going to, every time you ask your manager, she'll have to spend some time communicating with you, let's say. We'll call that H, the helping cost. That's between 0 and 1, right? And that's going to be incurred by the solver regardless of whether she knows how to solve the problem or not, okay? Now, when all is said and done, we have two types of firms. One is you could have a firm that has no hierarchy, just one layer, or you could have a firm that has two layers, right? Now, in this little picture, I put all workers having the same knowledge, Z. That's going to be without loss, actually, because there's going to be positive associative matching in the model. So even if we allowed for crazier firms, that's not going to happen in equilibrium. And you could also get creative and say, actually, why don't we have more hierarchies? And some papers in the literature do that. We chose not to do this. We think with two layers we get the main idea of the action. We have some results in the paper for more general hierarchies, but we want to stick to two layers today.
So these three fellows who have the same knowledge Z, do they just substitute each other, or I can add up the three fellows? So how do I aggregate this?
Yeah.
Are they Leontief or?
Good. Yeah, so I guess I went a little bit too fast here. So let's look at this firm right here. How does this particular firm look like? Well, it has a bunch of workers. Here's three, but in general it's going to be a number of workers. Now, how many workers are there exactly? Well, it's going to be enough workers so that in expectation they ask the solver exactly, they demand from the solver exactly as much time as the solver has. Right? Mm-hmm. So essentially you should think of each worker is pursuing a different project, and some of them are able to solve the problem, some don't. And those who don't ask the solver. Now, the interesting thing here is, which gives a lot of the insight into these models, is that if you have more knowledgeable workers, they ask less. They are more autonomous in a sense. They are more likely to be able to not have to ask the solver. As a result, if you have more knowledgeable workers, you have a higher span of control. You can have more workers because they ask less, they demand less of your time. Good. So let me give you.
Each of these workers solves a totally independent project.
Yeah.
There's no coordination element.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So there's, of course, firms do many things. Another thing firms do is coordinate stuff. That's completely outside of this model. Okay. Good. Let me just give you an example and now we'll move to the interesting part. So what do I have to do to show you an equilibrium? I'm going to we'll look at perfectly competitive equilibrium. So what we have to make a choice about the primitives. And what are the primitives in this model? Really two things. What is the distribution of knowledge? And what is the communication cost, the helping cost? Okay, so here I'll choose uniform distribution of human knowledge and communication cost a half. Okay. Now this is how the equilibrium will look like. So we have the humans uniformly distributed between 0 and 1, and there's going to be a cutoff. If you're below that cutoff, you're going to be hired as a worker in the bottom layer of an organization. If you're above that cutoff, you're going to be a solver. So you're going to be a manager essentially, right? So this is called occupational stratification. Less knowledgeable individuals do routine work, more knowledgeable individuals become solvers or managers. So that's the first part. Now, we have the 45-degree line, which is the expected output of each individual in isolation. So if you have an economy with no layers, just all firms having one layer, that would be the wage of everyone, their expected output, right? So the 45-degree line would be expected output or the wage in an economy where we don't allow layers. Now, once we allow layers, this is actually the wage, in this case, which is above the 45-degree line. That suggests there's gains from matching, there's gains from trade, and this is how they are distributed. It's, of course, increasing and convex. It's convex because of the matching effect, right? Higher knowledge not only gives you a higher ability to solve things by yourself, but you get a better match. That's why you get the convexity. Good. So now we go to so of course this is beautiful. But now we go to the part where we start contributing, which is, okay, we think this is a natural model to think AI and to organize our thinking about AI. So let's introduce AI here, right? And that's where our contribution starts. So we want to focus on three key properties of the AI we're seeing today, and they're going to be as follows. First, the one I explained already, AI can be used at scale. And this is in stark contrast with human knowledge, as we already discussed. The second one is the AI we're saying today is, or the main advances and all the main excitement comes from these foundation models, which are general purpose, right? So there's these labs like OpenAI and Anthropic, which are it's not like they're saying, look, we want to, there's this specific thing we want the AI to do, and we're training our models to do that. They're saying, no, we want general intelligence. This thing can do everything. So we want to capture that. And the third part is this idea that AI can actually automate knowledge work. Not just, and that goes back to the quotes at the beginning, not thinking it as a tool for humans to use, but actually as a substitute in a sense for certain humans. So the key concept we'll focus on is the autonomy, as I already mentioned. The benchmark for us will be, look, these AI agents are completely autonomous, just like humans. Then we'll contrast that with a non-autonomous AI, another extreme, where the AI agents can only be solvers. You can use them to ask questions when you have a problem, but they cannot go out in the world and pursue projects by themselves.
So just to make sure I understand the autonomous element, so it's execution, or is it like starting a project and building up a hierarchy, things like that? That's what autonomy means?
Yeah, so...
Autonomous agent can do this, a non-autonomous, he has to wait for a human.
Yeah, so I can respond to that in two ways. One is how I think the developers of these things are thinking about it, and that's reflected in the quotes, which is, remember this idea of, you give this task, which is very difficult, and the model will go for 2 weeks thinking about it, doing interviews, and sending emails. And at some point, so that's what the developers are thinking about autonomy. In the model, that's captured in this idea that you can go pursue a project and pursue it until you identify what's the main problem we have to solve here. So that's in the model what autonomy means. So one case, which will be our benchmark, is the AI agent can pursue the project as well, can go for 2 weeks, think about it, send emails, and identify what is the main problem.
But who endows the AI agent with the goal or utility function? So what objective do you give him?
Yeah, good. So
okay, we will get there, I guess.
Yeah, so essentially, I'm not giving the AI agent any objective. We'll get there in the next slide, but the idea is there's computing power, there's compute, there's owners of compute, and the owners of compute want to maximize profits. That's going to be it.
No, but if I want to hire an AI agent, I give him my utility function.
Well, okay.
And I might not even know my preferences clearly before I start a project.
So I think you're getting into very interesting questions that we haven't thought about so much. Okay. Good. I'll write it down, and I'm sure there's many people thinking about this stuff very carefully. The way we're thinking about it is, look, let's say the AI agent is autonomous as a human. It will, once we know what knowledge that AI agent have, it will be able to do exactly the same as a human. I think this will become clear right now. Yeah, so how are we actually modeling this? We're going to think there's an exogenous amount of machine time or compute mu. So we have 1 unit of time on aggregate for humans, and now we have this machine time, if you want, compute, which is mu. We're going to think of mu as being relatively large, as I'll say in a minute. What does AI do? AI is a foundation model that turns each unit of compute into an AI agent with a particular knowledge, the AI. And that's where the point about, look, these populations of AI agents are very different from population of humans, because the fact that it's very hard to your knowledge I can only use with your time means that there's a distribution of knowledge of human knowledge out there, right? And it's all useful. With AI, it's very different, because if we have a model that is smarter than the other, well, we'll use all compute in the smarter model, and that's the sense in which we're capturing here, which is, tell me what is the best model out there, we'll put all compute to use with that model. In the autonomous case, the AI agent can mimic the human with knowledge AI. So these are the two firms pre-AI. Now, once we introduce AI agent in this model, we'll have 3 other firms. The first one will be the analog of this one-layer firm, which is you can just hire AI agents and put them to do work autonomously without access to a solver. The second type of firm will be one where a firm that automates the bottom layer. So you use AI agents to do routine work, but you still have a human solver. And the third is, of course, you have an AI agent doing the solving role and humans doing routine work. So these are the three logical possibilities. There's, of course, there's another logical possibility, which is you put AI agents top and bottom, but that wouldn't be very useful because if the bottom, when an AI agent doesn't know how to solve a problem, the solver won't be able to solve the problem either if it's also an AI agent.
So the ZAI, that's also a random variable drawn?
Good.
Or is it?
So this is
probably the function of mu, I guess.
Good. So in this slide, you're seeing our two key parameters. We treat them as parameters, and our results are functions of these parameters. So we characterize the equilibrium for any of these things. ZAI is a measure of how advanced is the AI system. It's a parameter for us. It would be awesome. Like, we hope that there's more work about this where we can start thinking about where does this ZAI come from, what are the incentives. We haven't done that. We didn't take any stance on what ZAI is. It can go from 0 to 1.
But the implicit assumption here is that the AI agent is as good on each task. Like, individuals have different sets, and the AI agent, there might be some task where AI is very poor on some other task where it's very good on. You don't capture that. Is this correct?
Good. Yeah, so we don't capture that in this paper, but because it's such a good question, and we've got it quite a bit, the follow-up to this paper, which is, again, another paper, we have multidimensional knowledge. And there, you can start saying, oh, AI is very good at these things, but very bad at these other things. How do the hierarchies look like there? Yeah, we're excited about that project as well, but let's not get there now, if you don't mind. Good. So, yeah, so in this paper, knowledge is one-dimensional. So the AI, there's no this heterogeneity about AI knows how to do certain things. It's just how good AI is. It's what is the fraction of problems that the AI can solve. Now, as I was saying, we'll think about, as a benchmark as well, we also consider other cases, but the benchmark we think is more reasonable, is thinking about the amount of compute mu being large relative to human time. What does that mean? It means that, you see, when you match AI agents with human agents, that takes time on both sides. And we think of compute being large in the sense that there's no way, you don't have enough human time to match all the AI agents with humans. Mm-hmm. As a result, you'll have some AI agents doing independent production. Okay, that's the case for a benchmark. We'll take that. We think it's the most reasonable one. But that already gives us a lot of traction because it says that you'll have AI agents doing independent production. As a result, the equilibrium rental rate of compute will be the expected output of the AI agents. And because the AI agents are a perfect substitute to a human with knowledge AI, that also pins down the equilibrium wage at the AI. Yeah.
Just to make sure,
yeah,
there's no competition among the different AI providers. No, there's a monopolistic AI provider, or
good. So
for the rental rate.
So yeah, I love this. We could get into the I/O of AI, which I've yes. learned a lot from your past academy webinars. We're sidestepping that a little bit. So we can think of compute providers, and they're perfectly competitive. So we're looking at a perfectly competitive equilibrium here. So what we're thinking is, look, what's scarce here, what's really the constraint on AI use is compute. So the price of compute will be its marginal product, and the AI is a technology everyone has available. You could think of some Bertrand competition among foundation model providers. We don't get too much into that.
No, just one. Yeah. It's just a clarification.
Fantastic, thanks. Okay, so let's go to what are the effects of introducing these AI agents. Okay, and I'll just give you one example. So this is the pre-AI equilibrium. Now, let's say we introduce AI agents with this ZAI, which is 1/4 in this case. Okay? What are the effects? Well, we already know that the wage at ZAI will have to go down to the expected output at ZAI, the 45-degree line, because you're introducing these AI agents, there's a lot of compute. So the wage will have to, the rental rate will be ZAI, at the wage as well, so the wage goes down at 45-degree line. What else happens? Well, now I'll show you a new line, that is the wage post-AI. That will tell you if your wage is higher post-AI than pre-AI, it means you've been complemented. If your wage is higher pre-AI than post-AI, it means you have been substituted. So that's one thing to look out for. The other is this, here you're seeing who is a worker and who is a solver. That will change post-AI. So you introduce AI, and the identities of who is a manager and who is not will change. Okay, so these are the two things to look out for. And this is how it looks like in this particular case. Okay, so what we see is, first observation, the most knowledgeable workers pre-AI have moved to be solvers post-AI. So there is a movement, humans move towards problem solving, towards specializing in problem solving. Why is that? Well, because you're introducing this relatively basic AI, who's going to be used primarily as a worker, in this case just as a worker. That increases the demand for problem solving. And as a result, there's more problem solving, more humans doing this work. Another thing that happens is that the most knowledgeable individuals will use AI as a coworker. In this case, and it's a general result actually, when AI has the knowledge of a pre-AI worker, the AI agents are going to be the most knowledgeable workers in the economy. Who are they going to match? Because of positive assortative matching, the best humans. So all the most knowledgeable humans start forming their firms using AI agents to do their routine work. That allows them to leverage their knowledge very cheaply, relatively cheaply. As a result, they win. They are complemented.
So let me just make sure that I understand the co-worker. What does it mean? Is it a hierarchy with a human on top and AI at the bottom?
Good.
Or what does co-worker mean?
So what's happening in this blue line, which is the post-AI equilibrium, you should think essentially from knowledge 1/2 to 1. These are all humans. They are managers of a firm where all the routine work has AI agents. So they are all in bottom automated firms. Right? So they have AI agents pursuing a lot of projects or projects. And when the AI agent gets stuck, it asks the human. What has happened is because all the best humans now manage AI agents, the managers who are left for the human workers are worse.
Yes.
As a result, their productivity goes down. So the humans who are worse than AI, less knowledgeable than AI, become worse matched because the good managers have gone with AI agents. So this is very tough for the least knowledgeable for two reasons. One is their match decreases; it becomes worse. They become less productive because as a result. And second, they are directly substituted by this AI agent. So as a result of this, the most knowledgeable individuals are complemented by this type of AI agents, and the least knowledgeable individuals are substituted. Their wage goes down.
So just to bring it to the real data, this is within the white-collar workers, no? Because if I'm a plumber or something, because there's often the argument, who will win? Are the craftsmen, the plumbers, they will win. And the not so knowledgeable white-collar workers, they might lose out. And the very, very knowledgeable. Is this the correct interpretation?
Good, yeah.
Or do you see it across all workers in the society? Or is it mostly only, this is the cross-section of white-collar workers?
Yeah, I would say it's the cross-section of white-collar workers broadly understood, yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Now, what does the I stand for, this I star? Sorry.
Yeah, these are independent producers. Sorry, I should have said. So, what happens here is, why do you see independent producers coming in here? Well, these are agents that you see there's not enough distance between the AI agent and you, so there's no gains because once you're very close to the AI agent, can you be a solver for it? Well, if the AI agent doesn't know how to solve the problem, the conditional probability, conditional on the AI agent asking you, the probability that you'll be able to help is relatively small. So you might as well just pursue a project on your own.
Okay.
Yeah, good. So now let's go to the role of autonomy, which is essentially the main message of the paper. So we've seen that if you have you introduce autonomous AI agents, the big winners are going to be the most knowledgeable individuals, because they can leverage their knowledge relatively cheaply, and the least knowledgeable are sort of directly substituted and their match decreases. So
Can I disrupt you?
Of course.
You introduced an AI technology which was not really very smart. Now, what would happen if you introduce a very smart solving AI technology? It just changes at the top and nothing at the bottom?
Good. Yeah.
Do you have a figure for this too or not?
Yeah. I took it out. I was worried about time constraints. I took it out. I usually present it, but I can tell you.
In 1 minute.
So, instead of giving you a picture, I'll give you the general result, which is probably better at this point, especially because I don't have the figure, so I don't have an alternative. So, okay. In general, no matter what the AI is, as long as communication costs are relatively small, which the top individuals always win. Okay, so this is a general result.
But do you have to be on top of the AI?
You have to be on top, yeah. So yeah, there's a whole, the thing changes if you assume the AI is 1, then that's another issue.
But I might not be as good as, ChatGPT 7.0.
I think you are.
Okay. Well, somebody, then it will be very few people who will be on
That's completely true. But here's the good news. If the AI, if the AI that you have in mind, which is very good and autonomous, what's going to start happening is, there's going to be very few winners at the top, because who's better than ChatGPT 7.0? Now, the bottom guys start winning though. Why is that? Because they are not substituted so much. These AI agents are really very different from them. And the AI is the worst manager in that case. But it's very good. So now the worst humans have access to a very good manager, which is relatively cheap because a compute is abundant. So in that case that you're imagining, actually, it would be all the bottom guys would be the main winners. But there's also winners at the top. So the general result is, if there's always winners, so total labor income will go up. The winners, there's always winners at the top of the knowledge distribution, and there might or might not be winners at the bottom. There will be winners if the AI is big enough. This is the result.
Everything under the assumption there's no rent extraction by the open AI guys.
That's right. Perfectly competitive equilibrium.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of questions to work on here that we have glossed over for sure. Okay, so let's go now to non-autonomous AI, just for a contrast. Okay, so what we've been saying is that an AI agent can pursue projects, can do exactly the same as a human. What if we consider copilot, in the sense that we don't allow AI agents to pursue projects? You can use AI as a copilot in the sense that I have this problem, can you help me solve it? But it cannot actually go off and write emails and do meetings, and cannot actually be autonomous. So essentially, from these 5 firms we have post-AI, in the autonomous case, we're going to kill 2. Every firm that has AI agents doing routine work, pursuing projects, that's not allowed anymore. You can think of these for technological reasons or for regulation. So these 2 firms are not allowed anymore. You can only use AI agents as a solver. Okay? And let me give you a picture to summarize the main message here. This is essentially what we saw before. What is this figure telling us? Well, we have in gray the pre-AI wage schedule, and in dark black the post-AI wage schedule. And what we see is what we already said, which is, in this case, the AI is a half, and you see it's similar thing is happening as before. With the AI a half, the least knowledgeable lose, the more knowledgeable wins, same reason as before. Now let's consider what happens with the non-autonomous AI. let me show you the figure, and the figure will have the pre-AI wage, just as before, in gray.
Just on this figure, is that there are certain people who get the promotion and become from workers to supervisors or
Exactly.
solvers,
Yes.
but the wages are going down.
Their wage still going down. Yeah.
Yes, I mean a small group.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the general result is on that is if ZAI falls in the pre-AI worker region, then you introduce AI and there's the cutoff to become a solver will go down. So there's going to be more human solvers. If ZAI falls on the pre-AI solver region, the opposite will happen. And humans will move towards routine work. But this is not necessarily related to your being complemented or substituted or your wage going up or down, as you really saw. Yeah. Okay, so now I'll show you a picture with the effects of introducing a non-autonomous AI, which again, these are AI agents that can only be solvers, and the post-AI wage will be in a dashed line. Okay, this is how it looks like. What we see is that labor income inequality here actually decreases. So in this case, same thing, ZAI is still a half, but now AI cannot be autonomous, cannot pursue projects. The least knowledgeable win. And the most knowledgeable lose in this case. It's not a general result that the most knowledgeable have to lose, but in a lot of the cases that will happen. And what's happening is that, think about it, who benefits from an AI agent who you can only ask questions when you're stuck? Well, it's the people who get stuck a lot, right? People like you, Markus, you wouldn't have a lot of, if you don't know it, who will know it, you know? And instead, I will have a lot of good value for it, you know? So who values from that? It's the least knowledgeable.
But there's an implicit assumption that, you know, I can only do one project, even with a coworker. So it could be that this co-pilot might also speed up and I can do two projects, but your framework doesn't allow that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, I mean, ChatGPT or Gemini might still be very helpful at just making me writing twice as many papers as before.
Yeah, so in a sense, we're capturing that. I mean, in a sense, and we're fully capturing that. There's another way of thinking about the model, which is, it's not that I draw one problem, but I draw many problems, and my output is what fraction I can solve.
Yes.
Now, this AI copilot is exactly doing what you're saying, which is, look, now it has increased the things I can solve, and as a result, every agent produces more having access to the copilot. So we're completely capturing that. The point is that that's not going to be very... So I guess you had another point, which we're not capturing, which is, even if I am more knowledgeable than AI, the thing can help me get through the easy stuff. That, in a sense, would be... I would think about it as partially autonomous. So this part of the AI agent doing the routine stuff, it's the autonomy part of the AI agent.
Okay.
Good.
But
so let
me be critical in one regard. How would your model also apply to PCs and Excel sheets? You know, Excel revolution or PC revolution. Could I make the same argument, or would say it's very particular to artificial intelligence?
So,
was it any knowledge work a model applies to, or any automated knowledge?
Okay, I'm not sure. I can answer, but I'm not sure I got the exact question. So I can say, for example, this model has been used to study effects of better communication technologies that computers have brought about. For example, you could think of AI also with translation services, for example, helping communication across teams. That the way you would model it is as a reduction in age. And this, if you go to the handbook chapter of Luis Garicano and Esteban Rossi-Hansberg, they talk about that and how you can actually make sense of a lot of the things that have happened in terms of wages because of this ICT revolution. Mm-hmm. So this has been done, and we're abstract. So we're not allowing AI to. I mean, you could add on top that kind of thing. We didn't do it just to understand the effect of AI agents. And for us, the key difference between what's happening right now, and Excel sheets is autonomy. This idea that, you know, an Excel sheet cannot go to and propose we have this meeting and book tickets and send emails, but these AI agents can, and I think there's a true novelty here that we have to tackle as economists. Okay, so to finalize this, you can see how autonomous AI leads to much higher labor inequality in this particular example. The paper has all the general results. You can you're more than welcome to go look at them. But here in this example and in general, what's going to happen is basic autonomous AI will increase labor income inequality. And if you make the same AI non-autonomous, it will actually decrease labor income inequality. What is the catch? The catch is that if you do that, you're losing a lot of GDP. Because these AI agents, especially if compute is very large, are producing a lot. Right? So essentially, if you have non-autonomous AI, yes, labor income inequality might go down, but there's a loss in terms of GDP. And there's a point which is who incurs that loss? It's the owners of compute. Where is compute? That's in the north. So there's also an international dimension to this, which we're writing another paper about, which I can tell you another day. Okay, so the model rationalizes seemingly contradictory evidence. So I was in the IESE meetings, and I heard a lot of discussion. It came up a lot about, a year ago we thought this AI that we're seeing being deployed today seems to be helping the least knowledgeable the most, right? There's this famous paper by Eric Brynjolfsson, Daniel Lee, and Lindsay Raymond, which makes that point in terms of customer service agents. But there is also, and there's many other very good work on this, that seems to suggest AI agents help the least knowledgeable the most. But there's also evidence that starts to accumulate about actually in many cases it's the opposite. So what do we do about that? And I think our main advantage, which is really a simple point once you think about it, but the model helps you think through these things, which is how autonomous are these AI agents, right? We're thinking about what is the effect of AI. Well, you know, there's AIs, and autonomy is a key thing that might be varying across these domains.
But in your setting, essentially, if you have not an autonomous AI agent, then you don't have any existential risk, and these elements go away too, no? Because they cannot really execute anything. They're only advisors. Well,
yeah,
you can draw on their knowledge, but the execution is still at human hands.
Yeah, so that's a great point, of course. Yeah, so that's another.
But it's outside. It's not what.
No, but in general, like I'm concluding already, so we can go a little bit like more high level. There's a lot of another interesting thing about this whole space, I think, from my perspective, is that it interacts a lot with national security and safety in general. So, for example, there's this whole debate about open source models, you know, and well, they might. What is the incremental risk of having open source models that everyone can have the weights? And what are the benefits? And we have to do a cost-benefit analysis of that. And the costs are going to be a lot on the national security side. The benefits are going to be a lot on the economic side, labor income side. So I think there's amazing papers to be written here and amazing discussions to be had. But we don't enter at all into these things in this paper. Okay, so let me conclude. In this paper, we develop a framework that contributes to, we think, organize the discussion. So how is artificial intelligence different from human intelligence? Well, the main thing is AI can be used at scale. And the work comes in formalizing that, but that's the main idea. And I just show you how we have thought about it. Who wins and who loses from the introduction of AI agents? Well, our main message is that if the agents are autonomous, it's going to be mainly the most knowledgeable, unless it's really very good, which is the discussion we were having. If you introduce non-autonomous AI, it's going to be mainly the least knowledgeable individuals who benefit. We think this can provide a guide to empirical analysis, and one way to make sense of this seemingly contradictory evidence that we start to gather is that the autonomy might not be kept constant across these experiments. That might be a thing to look in future studies. We think another value of this framework is that it can point you a little bit to what kind of data you want to be collecting. And I guess the message would be, we should not only be thinking about IQ and EQ, so of the AI agents, not only intelligence quotient and emotional quotient, which are of course relevant, but also AQ, action quotient. How much can they actually do autonomously? And finally, a guide to policy, we uncover a trade-off between aggregate output and labor income inequality. Okay, so I said that I had three main messages. Let me conclude with that. So my first message is echo Gillian and Jason. I think we have thought a lot about human interactions, and that can pay off good dividends when we start thinking about AI agents as well, and the interaction between humans and AI agents. I think this is a very exciting area to do research on. Now, the population of AI agents, you might think, oh, it's just another population of humans. Who cares? It's not. And I've tried to convince you, and we tried to argue in the paper that that's really not the case. And finally, a third message is the economic impact of introducing AI agents crucially depends on what they can or are allowed to do, which is essentially the autonomy part. And with that, I really want to thank you, Markus. It's been a great discussion, and really appreciate the opportunity to present this.
No, thanks, Eduard, and also to your co-author, Enrique Ide. And so I think we covered already a lot of ground. It's a very nice model. So I think I just want to go for some economist who wants to model that. You think there's this framework provided by Luis Garicano and Esteban Hansberg.
And others, I should say there's many others have contributed as well.
Yes, okay. Yes, so you started out of, in a sense. Do you think this provides some fertile ground to do many, many things in the space of artificial intelligence? And yours is probably one of the first one using this framework to extend it in that direction. So probably it's an invitation for many others to follow up on your lead on this. So I would like to thank you as well, and for opening our eyes in this direction. We will think more on this artificial intelligence. I hope you all enjoyed it as well, and see you next week again to all of you. Thanks again to all of you, and to Eduard and Enrique. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Markus.